King Crimson were an energetic band. I liked them best when they would lapse into movements that went beyond the simple melody lines of their songs. They had texture. They were an energetic band. I think of the song Cadence and Cascade, a title that my mother complimented. It was adrift with flutes and pianos, being exciting and enjoyable. Of course, it came after a very sultry jazz rock number, variously called Parochials of the City and so on, which was what one of their fans called putting the boot in. I suppose that means Greg Lake hitting low notes on the bass while he stutters out these strange lyrics at bold decibels. But it gets into the glade and forest of Cadence and Cascade after that very nicely and winds around in a very pretty, prolonged way that some composers call an exhibition, a variation on the key. And the lyrics are sung by a singer who was a colossal bore, Gordon Haskell or Boz Barrel. They were both bores. But a couple records later, they had an address, but the record put me to sleep. It had some good notes in it. I could see why Peter Sinfield decided to go his own way. He wasn't really keeping up with the enthusiasm that his partner up until then had for getting around musically. He was a vanguard writer of the 60s, and things had changed by the mid 70s. But I didn't see them when they were the attic souvenir ensemble that they were for a while. I mean, Greg Lake and Hyde Park is online. You can check them out. 1969. But really, the thing to check out if you go scavenging for King Crimson is the Keith Tippett sessions that are online. Because he was, when Fred got up on one toe and wiggled about playing with musicians, I didn't care for it when the person was Bowie. But when he talked of Keith Tippett, he seemed genuinely pleased with himself for securing sessions with such an innovative and percussive pianist. And I share that view. That was one of the great overlooked partnerships, was the Keith Tippett sessions of the lyricist and the guitarist of that souvenir band. Oh, I had some souvenirs. I had a postcard that invited me to West Virginia. I have my painting back there. Here, I'll show it to you. I was the Stars and Bible Black tour at Stanley Theater. They're all nailing these guys, but I had a conversation one time with a musician that worked with Keith Tippett on a band called Overy Lodge. It was a nice conversation. I thought he was a nice man, like a Zen Buddhist. In fact, before they were in King Crimson, they were just awfully nice men. Yes, I was present at the Notorious concert at the Stanley Theater when Robin Trower opened up on his Bridge of Sighs tour. It's Notorious because they opened with The Great Deceiver, and then they played Lament. And then they pulled some wizard tricks, and the violinist straight forth to awe. And the Pinkerton one on the guitar was held it up in the corner like a quarterback. And they played some awfully interesting music. It was very unsettling. Decibels wise, they were called Marshall stacks. But I painted that from memory. You know, Bruford had the gongs that he brought with him, so it was very visible to the eye. They were a little bit like a jazz band, but it wasn't a jazz band. It was the great band King Crimson in those days. So I saw the Stars and Bible Black tour. And then they went to Holland and put out Discipline, which was passable. I dropped them after that. They got robbed of their Enigma by a freeloader from Zappa. And some real hand-packed individual from New York. But it was interesting for a while. They were pretty good for a while. The Human Contact tour was an opportunity for me to hitchhike to St. Louis to show my reserved emotion about their talents. Well, Lizard has a song that makes me weep called Bolero. It's the prettiest thing I've ever heard. Of course, I'm deaf. I lost most of my hearing. I don't hear that much music. I don't know. There may be some out there, but I'd be surprised if there's anything prettier than that in the world. And they had a sort of a punk psychedelic number called Happy Family, which has a, tripatronic vibrato. But when they really push their musicality and instrumentalizations, they're better than Gong, with whom one of them has played, I think. Like the end of the song Circus is hummed in. It's a real Jihon Wimmy that'll go in full blare. Woo. Flying a kite. And they put exercises of classical repertoire to good notation, like Bartok and Mars, whoever the dude was, dum, 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 dum. And they ended up on a soundtrack for a movie about the Bermuda Triangle, which is pretty good. I don't know that they ever bothered with Edgar Casey, but they were supposedly not drug-addled. they got into fourth way psychologicalisms. There were women who besieged me from their entourage with a great deal of hate and maniacal imaginations about me. I trusted them, so they got a monopoly on all the stuff that was going on, which they put to evil use, unfortunately. I don't have many kind words for them. But their music speaks for itself. They were dang good musicians. The melancholy and macabre stuff is just sort of a mask for how subterranean their reach was. I don't know that I disagree that Mark Saxon Aspect was something of a miracle of production services, because it sounds like it was made in a cardboard box. But it does have some, I think it shows the preliminary meditations that became the long, elongated snapping of virtually inaudible tone that segmented the overlooked work Starless and Bible Black, which is not the same thing as Starless. It's a song before Fracture. It comes over as being like, I don't know, Liechtenstein or something. But it's a very pretty textural moment that made one of his kookanormal friends so wagged out with preciousness that he did a partner album, sort of veered off. It was eccentric. It was called Evening Star. It has a philosophical guitar solo that's real pretty. I also got a postcard that was from the man who wrote The Night Watch. That was too precious. I gave it back to him. People always steal from me. They were beating me up, torturing me, molesting me. They weren't going to let me keep that. If I put it in the safety deposit box, Ming No Wen would have sicked Hans German Shepherds on me, tore my legs off. And partially because the person I gave it back to was an instigator. I shouldn't have given it back to that buzzard from Zappa, but I didn't know better. But there's certain, you have to have a certain rapture or indulgence to get into them, because they put you on hold for a real long time. In the wake of a sadness like that, it's a really long, subtle, quiet C cast Mellotron number that evidently so freaked out the Moody Blues that they refused to fulfill a concert obligation. They said they would have been too greatly diminished. That's just peculiar. Days of Future Past is a pretty good album. So is From Genesis to Revelation, which is by one of the prog rock bands that rode King Crimson's coattails to popularity. But it's true that I wouldn't see any grounds to. I mean, Robin Trower was really groovy. I could see his close affinity to Hendrix in some ways. They were carrying the torch of a celebrated movement of music in a way that seemed passably honest. And that's one of the reasons I like them. Like, there were some things that were sort of morbid about them. And if you come to dislike them personally, it can be a little bit difficult to handle. But how they all compare to one another is sort of strange. I mean, the first album came over like the Rat Packs, and Dean Martin could have been on it. Frankie Avalon and Fabian could have been dancing around combing his hair to it. And many people thought In the Wake of Poseidon was a step down, but I didn't really. I thought it was a step forward in every way. And what was good was it became spare on islands. I thought that they were bores mostly on islands, but I used to play Song of the Gulls whenever my grandfather visited. He thought it sounded like Mahler, which my Zionist tormentors called Mahler. Like there's something awful about it. Intrinsically grubby, they would say. But there was a long gap and stuff when they put out Grown, sort of tip of the old doofus hat of people. But then they came out with that album that had that anxiety attack on it, Thela Genji. And that superbly pretty partnership between the drummer and the guitarist, Sheltering Sky. Man, was that towering good. I used to just caress the Android Zone. Carnegie Mellon Gym, Oberlin College, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia. That Roland did some nice work. He used to make cat sounds and Women in Heat on Ladies of the Road, you know. And now he's doing elephants. So it was not that. Theater of the macabre, convolution of lyrics and gibberish. The Night Watch was real poetry. I thought I bought a Night Watch painting, put it on from National Gallery, sent it to me when I inquired. I had it on my wall all through the age I was 15, years old. It was on my wall. I painted my wall purple and put day glow stars and put up the Night Watch. But I had, they were in an environment, if you read about them hither or thither, there wasn't much to read about them. They sort of kept a low profile. Circus and circus raves and stuff. I picked up a floppy of Silent Night, which was Rippertronics in Philadelphia somewhere. I saw them at the Tower Theater a couple times, yeah. Sheltering Sky came over nicely. That was really a good concert. I saw Demiola there too. He could play. He was good. But, I could tell that they were sort of ready to bust my balls and say, get out of here, you squish. So I made a stand for myself against their relief. When you put yourself, it was sort of a selfie Chinese junk. When I visited them, I could have taken a camera. I tried to be respectful of their touchiness. I'm a deaf person. Yeah. And was mysteriously charted up with that awful image on the first record by the people who played it for me in this indecent, weird experiment by the academic society that advises Congress or something. I mean, everybody and their mother knows there's a postcard. They get a guy named Robert Card to shoot up a bowling alley, and the VA says, that's my kidney dialysis. Weird stuff, man. It's weird. But if I must make a propheticization about what happened, I gave it back because I wanted to show them I was friendly. I thought it was a nice gesture, and I didn't want to exploit it. I knew the circumstances I was in was going to be big news that King Crimson had read to me. So I took the courtesy and time to give it back to him, which was not an easy thing to do. I had to sit and wait on a boulevard for a while, hoping one of them would walk by from the hotel, and he did. So I gave it back to him. He said he was not very interested in me, which was fine. I said, okay, well, that's fine. See you later. Bye. I don't know where I got this stuff, though. It's following them around with a straw attached to my nose or something.